Been a long week. Okay. Yes, there it is. Okay, got that ready to go. Got this one. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you guys been all safe with the snow and now ice. Any quick questions before we start? All right. Well, You guys will be hearing my kids, so I apologize, but my wife's sick, so. All right, so today we're going to be talking about multivariable methods. This is kind of a two-parter. It will end our semester. Um, it's talking about multivariable methods and parametric. But before we get there, reminder that 3 minutes only for the presentation. Be prepared to share your screen. Um, the last discussion we'll have will be during finals week, and it's a very short one. It's because I have to make up the points, but I'll ask you to respond about the presentations in general and what you learned from them to make your own presentation better. It's more of just kind of a reflection of what you've been doing with these short 3 minute presentations, and in general, trying to do presentations on topics maybe you're very comfortable with, but presenting parts of it that you're not. Today, as I mentioned, last time we went in alphabetical order. This time we're going in reversed alphabetical order of last name. And then on our last presentation on finals day, we'll be starting in the middle. So Zubia, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hello. Okay. So now it's my job to make sure that you can share.
Okay.
Go ahead. You can share. Start us off.
Do you see the screen yet? Is it visible? Mm, is the screen visible? Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I'm dealing with my kids, so I need people to chime in to help out, please. So, okay, is it visible?
Yeah, we
Oh,
can
Is
see.
anybody
yes.
able to see? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you so much, guys. I am not sure why I'm not able to do it as a slide presentation.
It's okay if you can't.
Okay. Hello everyone. I am Zubia, and for this project, I did the project. I took the article, which mentioned about obesity in young adults. And for a little background, obesity among young adults has been a concern, and as of now, it's a great concern as well. And not only does it affect people's health, but it also affects mental health, and it is affecting nearly one third of the individuals, mostly teenagers and young adults of ages 15 to 30. And next, for the data presentation, I took the article which performed which performed the experiment on the Ponzonon University of Medical Sciences, and the data was collected by the students. There were 800 students, around 81.4% of females and 18.6% of males, and they were aged about 18 to 25. And the study was conducted on during the years of 2019 of October and 2022 of March. And the information was basically collected using the questionnaires and physical activities, and by collecting the data about eating behaviors and satisfaction with body. For the next, I considered the BMI, which is body mass index of the students, and the hypothyroidism. From that, I came to the conclusion that the bar chart here illustrates the BMI difference between men and women, and the bar graph contains the mean BMI of men and women in the data sets. And when we compare them, the men have a higher BMI on an average, with about 95% of confidence interval, showing a significant difference. And you can see one of which is 0.97 for the females, and it is 2.23 for males, which is higher. And as for the hyperthyroidism, the plot you can see here is also giving a difference in proportion for men and women. And when compared to men, women are most affected by hypothyroidism when compared to males. And for the conclusion, it was said that while making strategic plans for the for comparing the body mass index, and for mentioning the obesity in young adults, it is necessary to compare all the other factors as well while doing the calculations and while considering the methods to reduce obesity in young adults.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. All right. You can stop sharing. Benita, you're next.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was informative.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Dr. Hampton, can you circle back around to me because I don't have any new stats from
Okay.
what I presented the last time.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Heba, you're next.
Okay, I can share my screen.
Yeah, please.
It's visible now?
It takes a second. You have to click on the
Okay.
screen one more time. There you go.
Okay, I'm ready. So, hello everyone, my name is Seba. I'm here to present on Understanding Barrier to Dental Care, a study on Medicaid acceptance and workforce trend in Illinois. So the background says that limited access to dental care in underserved and low-income communities is a significant public health issue. This study helped me to investigate Medicaid acceptance by dental practice in Illinois. This study has allowed to explore more on the type of dental practices like solo that are clinics, small groups that are small health centers, and large groups that are hospitals. By understanding these patterns, we can identify opportunities to improve access to Medicaid dental care in underserved communities. For this data presentation, the graph, it is clearly shown that 44.89% payer in Illinois is from private insurance, which may create access barrier who cannot afford it. 25.98% are Medicaid payers, 16.77% Medicare, while 3.46% is from other public financing, and 8.9% are self-payers. Now, through this data presentation, this chart clearly shows that Medicaid participant faces disparity on base of acceptance, as they are being accepted mostly by a large group of, for instance, hospitals. Now, through this key analysis, through solving equation on finding confidence interval, the confidence interval is relatively narrow, that is 20.2% to 25%, which means the estimate is precise. The narrow confidence interval indicate less uncertainty about true proportion. The sample proportion, 22.6%, represent the fraction of surveyed dental practice that indicate they accept Medicaid. It is a point estimate of the true proportion of all dental practices in Illinois that accept Medicaid. This slide summarizes our analysis of Medicaid acceptance across Illinois dental practice using a chi-square test. I tested whether solo, small group, and large group practices differ in Medicaid acceptance with a chi-square in Medicaid acceptance. With a chi-square value of 18.971 and a very small p-value that is 7.593 into 10 power negative 5, we rejected the null hypothesis, confirming our significant differences. Large group accept Medicaid at highest rate, which is 48.5% compared to the solo, which is 17.8%, and a small group, which is 21.8%. To conclude this, the Medicaid acceptance should be increased in all type of health settings. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heba. That was, again, great timing, and it's also disturbing numbers. All right. Alex,
Is
I
it
should have told
ended?
you. What?
Is
No,
the
not
presentation,
your
like-
numbers. I mean, just like,
Okay.
I'm worried about Medicaid and funding.
Oh, okay. No, I want to ask, is my presentation still coming on the screen or is it stopped?
It's still on the screen. You're going to want to stop.
Like this? Okay. Yes, I can.
Alex, you're next.
Okay, let me just share this real quick.
Heba, yeah, there you go.
Can you see my screen? Just
Yeah, we
Okay.
can.
Okay. All right. I should be good.
Yeah, you're good. Ready?
Yeah,
Go.
okay, so my presentation was a continuation of what I did in the first project, which is a study of the obesity in Latino communities based on on data from the Hispanic Community Health Study and the study of Latinos. A little bit of background, going back to the first presentation that I did, the Hispanic Community Health Studies is a multi-location wide variety study with over 16,000 participants. You can kind of see here to my left um, of the screen, you can see a breakdown of how these participants are chosen and exactly what data is included in the sample study that we're talking about today. Um, the study today is made of a baseline exam of the Hispanic study of Latinos and then a follow-up ancillary study that was conducted 2 years later from the initial start with a much smaller baseline, but these participants were also added into the study. And then the reason for this prevalence this interest that we're showing today is that Latinos are the highest growing group of minorities in the United States, and they are also the most prone to diabetes and obesity, with over 50% of all Latinos being classified as obese as late as 2018. And then this specific study that we're going to go through today studies a more specific narrow view on sodium and potassium as it refers to obesity, and that is also in correlation breakdowns between the difference between the foreign-born and less than 10 years in the United States and foreign-born or 10 or equal years in the United States, and then US-born participants that make out the minority of this study. And then on the left, there's also an overall percentage of all these characteristics. And then as we go into the first data set, we can see this bar graph that kind of shows just how potassium and sodium are accumulated in a diet per day. From these samples, we are getting that information based on a 24-hour dietary recall that was conducted at the baseline of this entire study. And then on the far right column, we see a sodium to potassium ratio that was collected through urine, through double labeled water, which is used in medical studies to kind of really narrow down ions that are excreted in urine, in this case, sodium and potassium. And then this is just a further linear regression that kind of pairs it all together, and we can see body mass index, body fat, and percent of body fat, which is thrown against these models for sodium and density. And then model one is made of the first half of the Hispanic Community Health Study characteristics, and then model two is based off the ancillary study characteristics for that sample. And then as far as what we are looking to find
That's
today,
time. That's time, Alex. Sorry. So thank you. By the way, your data is also very scary. So in terms of like, we know this prevalence, but it's going to get worse. Thank you so much. Yana, you're next.
How do I share my screen?
It depends how you have Zoom set up for yourself.
Okay, I see it here.
There should be a green button, a giant green button.
Yes, I see it.
Okay.
Can you see the PowerPoint slide?
We can. You probably want to go to slideshow.
The presenter view.
This should work. Yeah.
Alrighty, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
My study focuses on income and maternal mortality in the United States. Just a little bit of background within the United States, there was an increase in maternal mortality from 2020 to 2021, and then a sudden decrease from 2021 to 2022. However, my focus is specifically on the years 2020 to 2021 to see what factors influence that increase. Within the United States, Black American mothers have the highest maternal mortality rate, both in 2020 and in 2021. The information I gathered from the CDC and this graph that I created shows that maternal mortality is highest amongst African American women and amongst their counterparts. The analysis of data that I conducted, I did 5 analysis. I did 2 confident intervals and 3 hypothesis testings, but I'm only showing the 3 here. This first one here, the first example is I found the mean maternal mortality rate and 95% confidence interval for 31 states in 2020. Data was not available for all 50 states. N is larger than the 30, so we use the Z value, which is the Z analysis, which is 1.96. I use Excel to calculate the 2020 mean maternal rate, which is 24.045 deaths per 100,000 live births. The analysis showed that we are 95% confident that the true mean for maternal mortality rate in this sample is between 21.398 and 26.692. I did the same analysis for a 2020 sample and concluded that the 95% confident interval, though we are 95% confident that the true mean for maternal mortality in 2021 is somewhere between 23.425 and 27.42. I ran an analysis to determine if there was a statistically significant difference in the mean maternal mortality rates between the 2 independent samples, 2020 and 2021, using a 5% level of significance. My null hypothesis was that the means are the same. The null hypothesis was the means are the same, and H1 was the means are not the same. Because both N1 and N2 are larger than 30 in this sample, we utilize the Z-test statistics, where Z is 1.96. Sorry, is this one? Sorry, this is the one I'm talking about here. And the decision rule is that we will reject the null hypothesis because Z is less than or equal to minus 1.960. And we calculated that the calculated Z for the sample was a negative 0.673. Therefore, we do not reject the null hypothesis because Z is greater than that negative 1.960. We do not have statistically significant evidence that the level of significance 0.05 to show that the mean maternal mortality rates between those 2 years are statistically different.
Yeah, no, that's and you're at your conclusion.
Yeah,
but that's 3
thank
minutes.
you.
No, that was good. It's hard. It's hard to figure out the timing. But thank you very much for going through the analysis really well. All right, Uzman, you're next.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so
Hey, Uzman. It's really important that everybody keep an eye on chat. I'm telling you who's next, so that you're ready. Thanks. No worries. No worries. I know you're doing the best you can.
So, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, perfect. So today I'm going to present my previous presentation that I already put. This is a continuation, and I'm presenting on the same topic: the impact of community water fluoridation on dental caries in U.S. children and adolescents. This presentation highlights how community water fluoridation reduces dental caries and addresses oral health disparities in children. So, dental caries is one of the most common chronic disease in U.S. children and affecting mostly the low-income population. Community water fluoridation is an effective way to control the dental caries and reduce the dental caries, particularly in the underserved areas. Studies like Slade et al. And Metsau has confirmed that community water fluoridation plays a role in lowering dental caries prevalence. So this is the data that we gathered from the CDC, and the nutrition and the National Health and Nutrition Examination Surveys. This table compares the mean number of decayed filled surfaces in primary teeth for children aged 2 to 8 years and the mean decayed missing and filled surfaces like DMFs in permanent teeth for adolescent aged 6 to 7 years. In areas where over 75% of the population has access to fluoridated water, the mean DMF values are significantly lower. For children aged between 2 to 8, the mean is 3.3 in fluoridated areas compared to 4.6 in non-fluoridated area. For adolescent aged 6 to 17, the mean is 1.9 in fluoridated areas versus 2.2 in non-fluoridated area. The absolute difference shows how fluoridation reduces prevalence, like a reduction of 1.3 DMF for younger children and 0.3 DMF for adolescents. Finally, the prevented fraction calculated as a percentage of reduction in children is 30% for children and 12% for adolescents. Now, this is the confidence. This table shows a reduction in dental caries due to fluoridated water with confidence intervals highlighting the reliability of the data. This is the same thing. And now the null hypothesis. So our null hypothesis is defined as the no significant difference in caries prevention between fluoridated and non-fluoridated counties. And then our alternative hypothesis is the significant reduction in caries in preventing prevalence in fluoridated counties. So we did the hypothesis testing and we analyzed that the caries prevalence data for fluoridated versus non-fluoridated. Our hypothesis testing shows that for the age 2 to 8, the t-value is negative 83.33, and for ages 6 to 17, it's 91.4. For both values are far below the critical threshold of 1 point or of negative 1.96 at the confidence interval of 0.05 significance level.
Usman,
This
that's 3 minutes.
uh, so this leads us to reject the null hypothesis and confirming that the validation significantly reduced the caries prevalence in both ages.
Okay, thank you so much, Usman.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Great job. Anant, you're next.
Okay. Let me get it correct on the correct screen.
Yeah, that's always the hardest part.
All right.
And Usman, you have to make sure you unshare. I can do it.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Point. Okay. All right. I reviewed research on contraceptives in young Hispanic adults. Background. Access to contraceptives is a critical component of public health, particularly for young adults navigating sexual health decisions. Existing research comprises of surveys and interviews. Emergency contraceptive vending machines represent an innovative solution to improve accessibility on college campuses. The study explores global research on contraceptive barriers, synthesizing insights into cultural, educational, and socioeconomic factors influencing contraceptive use. Local context is investigated through a campus survey assessing attitudes, behaviors, and potential demand for such vending machines. This is from the CDC. It goes over several methods of contraception. Female sterilization did not differ significantly across Hispanic origin and race groups. Current use of the pill was higher among non-Hispanic white women than Hispanic and non-Hispanic black women. It was about 17% to 8%. Current condom use was lower among non-Hispanic white women compared with Hispanic and non-Hispanic black women. Current use of long-acting reversible contraceptives did not significantly differ from across the Hispanic origin and race groups shown, which was around 10 to 11%. Global findings, where studies highlighted significant variations in contraceptive knowledge and influenced by factors such as trust, education, and socioeconomic status. Key global trends were higher awareness of short-acting methods like condoms and pills compared to long-acting reversible contraceptives, sociocultural barriers including religious norms and misconceptions limit contraceptive uptake. Trust in relationships inversely correlates with consistent contraceptive use. Future analysis would be conduct further qualitative studies to explore dissatisfaction with current contraceptive methods, address gaps in sexual education, particularly among graduate students who report less exposure to formal instruction, investigate how vending machine implementation may impact usage patterns and awareness over time. Limitations were findings are based on self-reported data, which may be subject to bias. The study population, which is college students, is not fully representative of all young adults, especially those outside academic settings. Cultural and institutional differences need further exploration to understand scalability of vending machine initiatives globally.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, great timing. Very good timing. All right, Maricela, you're up.
Okay. Did I stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's always one of those like, did I actually undo it?
Okay.
We can see your screen, Maricela.
Okay, thank you. I just don't know how to start from the beginning.
Just
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just gonna talk a little bit about what preeclampsia is, which is a public health crisis. What is preeclampsia? It's a pregnancy complication that affects mothers and babies, usually develops at 20 weeks. It's characterized by high blood pressure and damage to other organs, usually the kidneys. It is a major cause of maternal morbidity and mortality in the U.S. The disparities in preeclampsia, some women from lower income backgrounds often have limited access to prenatal care, which increases the risk of late diagnosis and poor management of preeclampsia. Women who live in underserved areas may face barriers to healthcare appointments and seeing a healthcare specialist. In the U.S., the rate of preeclampsia among African American women is 60% higher compared to white women. African Americans face a higher risk of experiencing severe complications such as kidney damage and increased mortality. And improving the access to quality prenatal care, providing education and addressing inequalities can address the disparities in preeclampsia. Why it's important, a few reasons. Annually, preeclampsia is responsible for over 70,000 maternal deaths and 500,000 fetal deaths worldwide. Preeclampsia and related hypertensive disorders affect approximately 5 to 8% of all pregnancies in the United States. The rate of preeclampsia in the U.S. has increased 25% in the last 2 decades and is leading cause of maternal and infant illness and death. And it can lead to serious complications for mother and baby, and then it may result in preterm birth, low birth weight, eclampsia, which is a severe form of preeclampsia. And then the diagnosis for this would be like going to routine checkups and getting like your blood pressure and urine tests done. These are the signs and symptoms. High blood pressure, 140/90. They were detected by the protein in the urine. Sudden weight gain, severe headaches, changes in vision, and upper abdominal pain. This is an action plan to monitor the system, schedule regular prenatal appointments, lifestyle modifications, stay hydrated, engage in regular moderate exercise, and take prescribed medication and know when to call your doctor. And then these are my references, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Marisol.
Mhm.
All right, Ivory, you're next. Do you know how to unshare your screen, Marisol? There you go. You got it. As we're waiting. Yeah.
You see my screen?
Preeclampsia. Yeah, preeclampsia, by the way, is very scary. As Tiara was saying, it's no good. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
my
good.
topic. Okay, my topic is on racial and ethnic differences when it comes to postpartum depression. To clarify what postpartum depression is, it refers to the practice of breastfeeding a newborn right after birth for up to 1 year of life, according to the World Health Organization. This topic is important due to the long-term benefits for both the newborn and the mother. Um, Also, you will see that, wait, also when you see the data, you will see that the disparities lie within like Black
If you click
individuals.
on the your next slide, the 3 over here where your slides are, they'll move it to the next one if you want.
Uh, you can see the next one.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so when it comes to the breastfeeding outcomes, I did mine by percentages and I focused on the initiation and also postnatal intent. So white people, you'll see that it's a 1% decrease. And when it comes to Black, it's a 4% decrease. But with Hispanics, it's actually a 1% increase. What this data actually means is that I pulled this from the CDC website, the data, and I kind of created my own because there was a lot of stuff on there, a lot of information. And I did a confidence interval test. It means that the weighted mean for the initiation rate is 71.8%, that it will fall within a 95% confidence interval between 69.8% and 73.8%. And then for postnatal intent, the rate is 71.2% with a 95% confidence interval that it will fall between 69.1% and 73.3%. For the hypothesis, the initial rate will be the null hypothesis will be the initial rate is 80%, and then alternative is the initial rate is not 80%. So then for the I only did the hypothesis testing on the data from the initial rate, not the postnatal intent. So for that one, for initial of breastfeeding outcomes, according to race and ethnicity, the hypothesis shows a significant difference for up to 75%, p-value being approximately 0.002, suggesting that the initial rate is significantly lower than 75%. Basically, for future work, what I would do is continue to have supports in the community, support groups. That's why I put a picture of like a support group, education groups. I will collaborate with organizations to develop tailored education programs that address significant concerns. Future research should also explore long-term health impacts.
I'll stop you there because that's a little over 3 because I interrupted you earlier. But you did a really good job. It's a lot of hard data to deal with. So good job. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Tiara, I'm sorry I didn't give you notification that you're next. That's on me. I was actually totally lost in the presentation. It was good.
Hey guys. All right, so from data to action, managing hepatitis B virus and reducing transmission rate. From my background information, hepatitis B is a major global health issue. Infection of the liver caused by the hepatitis B virus. The infections can be acute or chronic. When the infections are chronic, it can lead to cirrhosis or hepatocellular carcinoma, primary type of liver cancer. According to the World Health Organization, 254 million people are living with chronic hepatitis B infection, contributing to over 1 million deaths worldwide. High burdens exist in Western Pacific and African regions. The most common transmission route is mother to child during birth. Perinatal transmission is responsible for up to 50% of HBV infections worldwide. Illinois requires pregnant women to be tested and vaccinated. One of the risk factors in the United States is injection of drug use and multiple sexual partners. It's also the 7th leading cause of death worldwide. Like I said earlier, over 1 million deaths. Approximately 600,000 individuals live with the chronic hepatitis B infection. And globally, the estimated global prevalence is 3.5%, with the highest rate in Africa, which is 6.1, and Western Pacific regions is 6.2. I'm not going to go over the social economic factors, but I am going to go over the table that I created where the cause of death was, where hepatitis B virus was listed as a cause of death. And I'm comparing Illinois and Pennsylvania because the population is about the same. So this is the average of deaths per year. Illinois was 29.6 and Pennsylvania was 35.6. And I used that to create this bar graph, and I did hypothesis testing. My null hypothesis was there is no difference in the average number of deaths due to hepatitis B between Illinois and Pennsylvania. Okay, wait, did I put the information in? Well, I didn't put the information in, but I failed to reject the null hypothesis because the p-value was 0.0794, which was greater than the level of significance. And for future work, I would like to actually assess public health policies to either expand prenatal care and access to hepatitis B, especially in marginalized communities, because while I'm doing this research, a lot of stuff I didn't have information on, and I actually had 2 children, and I would actually like to track the outcomes of hepatitis B in pregnant women, focus on maternal infant health post-delivery, understand how the prenatal care influences long-term outcomes. I want to gather more data on racial groups who have access to early. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. No, that's okay. Again, you all are actually doing timing really well. I'm just being very strict, but it's hard to do 3 minutes. All right, Chelsea, you are next. Good presentation. Yeah, I am. I thought everybody got, at least in the U.S., got tested for HPV, hepatitis B, but I never remember. All right.
Great, thank you. It's difficult to. 1 second, I'm going to stop share and then reshare again.
That's okay. Yeah, because if you share the full screen, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I have the same problem. You guys have seen it at least 10 times.
Okay. Gosh darn it. It is a pain in the tuchus. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can. And it's the full screen.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Dare, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about immigration and tuberculosis in the United States. And it's not changing, is it?
Oh, no, it's okay. Click on the slide itself. Click
There we go.
arrow.
Lovely.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, so for a little bit of background, tuberculosis is caused by a bacterium called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It is an airborne infectious disease, and it affects approximately 10.6 million cases of people had active TB worldwide in 2022. Smaller incidents in the United States. In 2022, there was only 8,331 cases of TB. The real issue is that tuberculosis has been in steady decline in the United States for the past 27 years approximately, but there's still there's countries with very high incidence rates. And so it's travel back and forth to these countries that is an issue for the reason why TB is not completely eradicated here in the United States. And that's kind of noted because after decreasing significantly in 2020, TB cases increased in 2021 and 2022, but they did remain lower than the numbers in 2019 was low during the pandemic. There's two TB related conditions. There's inactive TB, which is infectious, and active TB. I found my numbers through the CDC, through the online tuberculosis information system, and I compared case rates from 2018 to 2020, excuse me, between US born and non-US born patients in the United States. The CDC collected this data. It's a mandatory disease reporting surveillance system, and state health departments report all active cases to the CDC. The caveat is that they're reported in active TB cases only. Latent TB cases are not as well tracked, or also there can be misdiagnosed. Okay, so this chart information was taken from the online tuberculosis information system, and it shows the significant difference between non-US born and US born cases here in the United States. The green is the non-US born and the orange yellow is US born. And so you can see that there's a higher prevalence among the non-US born here in the United States. Discussion of data. So in the past 5 years, I totaled all the cases between the US born and non-US born and found the mean and standard deviation within each population. And the 95% confidence interval was 3,630.2 plus or minus 330.
So Chelsea, that's time. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you yeah, sorry.
No, thank you so much.
No, it was good. I am curious. Yeah.
I'm very curious about my numbers because they are crazy. Okay, so it's going to take me a moment to stop to share. I did find it. Thank you.
Yeah, you found it. Kelly, you're next. I thought Kelly was here at some point. I don't see him. Okay. All right. Zahara, you're next. Sorry about that, Zahara.
No problem. I'm going to share my screen and
Yes,
my voice
please.
from my laptop.
Of course.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes our speakers break, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I guess let me turn on my. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. My presentation.
You might want to move your slide to the very beginning. Maybe, I don't know. I'll let you do you, but just try to help. All right, go ahead, Zara.
My presentation focuses on cultural competencies amongst healthcare providers and its relation to diabetes. The role of cultural competency in diabetes management, with a specific focus on how it affects ethnic communities, including Asians, Hispanics, and African Americans. These groups are disproportionately impacted by diabetes, both in terms of prevalence and complications. However, one key issue contributing to these disparities is the lack of cultural competency among healthcare providers. Cultural competency refers to the ability of a healthcare provider to understand and communicate with and effectively interact with patients from different, diverse cultural backgrounds. Research has shown that when providers are culturally competent, it can lead to a better patient outcomes, especially in chronic conditions like diabetes. The researchers from the study I chose, they analyzed data from the 2017 National Health Survey. And this data is readily available on this website that I'm showing right here. You'll have to stay there. The extract I created had similar variables to their variables. And I calculated two differences. The first difference is I measured the difference between men and women who reported having diabetes. And it showed the confidence intervals that I calculated showed that there was no significant difference between men and women, meaning that the prevalence of diabetes between men and women was the same. The second thing I chose to analyze, it's not showing my other slide, but I did a t-test, and the p-value, the t-test was between age groups, and the group was 20 to 30 and 40 to 60, and it showed a significant difference between age groups, which indicates that there might be other factors that they're not accounting for in this analysis of this survey, or that it's not representative of like the entire population. That's
Thank you so much, Zahara. All right.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No,
I have
do
technical
not.
difficulties.
You're fine. You did really well. You were able to speak. You're able to share your slides. It's all good.
Thank you so much.
Lachey, you're next, and I'm sorry to take a notification because yeah.
That's okay. I have two.
Oh my gosh! Hold on, before you start, Lachey, you changed your name
to Lachey. Yeah, I figured it out.
You did, yay! That makes my day.
All right,
All right.
I have a bunch of screens. Let's see if I can share this one. Can you see?
Yeah, we can see it, and if you want, you can.
Can you see all of my screens or just one?
No, just the one of the whole screen of the presentation of your Google Doc.
Okay, perfect.
You can do it from here if you want.
Okay, great. Then that works for me. So I decided to wait. Tell me when you're ready.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I decided to expand on my first project about access to chiropractic care amongst the publicly insured population. So a quick background. So systemic barriers impact access to care by creating inequalities in underserved communities. So like restrictive healthcare policies like Medicare limits and caps on visits, they disproportionately affect like individuals who have Medicaid and Medicare. So like expanding coverage really benefits the healthcare system by providing access um, to preventative care and reducing healthcare expenditures, preventing ER visits and long-term medication use. So what are barriers? What are the barriers, right? Transportation, education of scope of work of other doctors than just surgeons, money/insurance coverage, and also discrimination. So let's chit chat about the data. So in a recent survey of a population of over 2,000, 75% of the publicly insured people experience barriers. In another study about Medicare, white people visited a chiropractor 97%, and they were insured by Medicare, where Black people only 1.5% utilized the chiropractor. And with those numbers, chiropractic care or the number of physicians has doubled in like a 10-year span, according to another study, which suggests that the chiropractors are not going to underserve or not being hired or putting their offices in underserved communities. So I did a confidence interview analyst on the number of problems that people on Medicaid and Medicare was experiencing. So about 75%. So the population was 2,600 people experienced a big problem, a big barrier. 930 people experienced about a small barrier, and only 500 experienced no problem. So 75% of the entire population. Sorry, my phone rang. Embarrassing. And this is just a data. This is just a bar graph of the data. Just explaining the data. So with my confidence interview, I was 95% confident that the number of people experiencing barriers lies in between 28 to about 31.9%.
So that's 3 minutes.
I'm sorry.
That was 3 minutes.
Oh,
it goes so fast. No, it's okay. It's okay.
Oh, this didn't come up. Okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. Please don't apologize.
Right.
This is a learning experience. So not one of you have to apologize. So
okay.
All right, and then Samaya, our last one.
Yes. Let me just
see. You complained about starting last time. Now you get to the last one.
Yeah.
This falls on you. The ordering. No, I'm just teasing. Go ahead.
I don't like being first, but anyways, okay. Hi everyone. I'm Samaya, and the topic for my presentation is investigating.
It's still loading. We can't see it.
Oh, just a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Dr. Hibden, do you start the timer when the PowerPoint goes up, or do you start it like when we're struggling?
No, I started actually when you're going off of your introductory slide. Then that's when I've been starting it. A few times I forgot, and some of those people got a little bit of extra time, but it was always within 30 seconds, which I guess is a lot, and it's only 3 minutes.
So,
but yeah. Why are you tracking me? Because I'm curious.
No, I'm just wondering how, because I'm like, there were parts where I was like, it took me a minute to get the PowerPoint.
No, when that happened, that's why anybody that like I had to interrupt or like, for example, Samaya's having some technical difficulties right now. You know, like why would that
Yeah.
be against their time? There's technical, there's like the slide's not changing or whatever. Then I add, seconds. It's like playing soccer. But I'm counting down.
I'm trying to figure out why it says my screen sharing is paused.
That's on you, not on us. And there's nothing I can do about that. If you would like, I will give you some time. We'll take a 10-minute break because we've been here for a little bit now, almost an hour, and I have to, strap my kids into their bed because they're screaming. But you can send me your presentation, email it to me.
Okay.
What I recommend is take the presentation, download it as a PowerPoint. Even if you don't have PowerPoint on your computer, email me the PowerPoint. Or
Okay.
download it as a PDF. Download it as a PDF is the best way.
Okay. I will do
PDF's
that.
key.
Sorry about that, guys.
Again, you don't have to apologize. Okay.
You get to get a 10-minute break. Wow.
Yay! Freedom. So let's get back here at 7:16. If you hear screaming, it means I forgot to mute myself. And that means I'm sitting on my children trying to get them to lay in bed. So, all right. 7:16. Bye.
See you guys soon.
Can anybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, can you guys
Yes.
see my slides?
Yeah, the first slide is on the screen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, figured it out. Okay.
Samaya, you got it to work.
Yes, I did. I was sharing it on a different desktop, so.
That happens. Happens to the best of us.
Okay.
Well, let's wait a second. I said till 7:16.
Sure.
No, put it back.
Yeah, I tried going like on the slideshow and then it went away again.
Okay. I'll download it.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on, and don't start. So I need you guys to tell me what you see. Do you see the full screen?
No.
We
see the full screen.
Yeah, we see the full screen.
I see it, yeah.
Okay, so Samaya, you're in a tricky situation. You're gonna have to tell me next slide.
Okay.
All right. Well, go ahead and get started.
Wait, Dr. Hibden, I don't see my slides.
Stop sharing. You need to stop sharing.
I see your slides.
What do you all see now?
Oh,
I see slides.
Wait, I see my slides.
And we see it with the slides on the side with the.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At top, you got to click on his name. So if you click on his name, it should say background. But if you click on Samaya's name, you'll be looking at her screen. It's two different screens at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hold on. I can fix that too. Maybe. Okay, we'll do it for my slides, Samaya. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Go ahead and get started.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Samaya, and the topic for my presentation is investigating health disparities of PM 2.5 pollution across the US. So starting with background, the first slide, PM 2.5 is a pollutant and it's mostly released from vehicular emissions. It's really small in size, so it can easily enter airways and bloodstreams. And because of that, it's known to cause a lot of health problems like respiratory illness, heart disease, and reduced neurological development in children. Next slide, please. So this was my research from Project One. I found the amount of days out of the year in which PM 2.5 concentrations were detectable above the minimum threshold from Air Quality Index 2023. And I compared that with 2 Illinois counties with different levels of average household income. So here my results showed that the lower income counties, Sangamon County, had more days of higher levels of PM 2.5 concentration. Next slide, please. So I did my data analysis to see if there's a significant difference of PM 2.5 concentration between the two counties based on how many days out of the year they had increased exposure. So I calculated the confidence interval for both the counties, and those were my values. So like if you look at it in like a different way, we can say that about 1 in 4 days in Kane County had above minimum levels of PM 2.5 concentration with a 95% CI compared to Sangamon County, who had 2 out of 3 days above minimum levels. And then I also did a 2 proportion z-test, and these were my results. That's my z-value and the p-value on the screen. Because my z-value is really small, negative 12.56, I rejected the null hypothesis, and that basically means there is a significant difference between the two counties. And my p-value was also really small. It was less than 0.001, which represents a statistical difference, and I can reject the null hypothesis again. Next slide, please. So basically, I found that PM 2.5 exposure is significantly higher in the lower income county compared to the higher income county. And moving forward, I plan on examining any racial or ethnic demographic differences between the two counties. And also, I'm going to try finding data on other Illinois counties, even though it's been very limiting. I've been noticing the lower average income of a county it's harder to find air quality data for it. But yeah, that's what I plan on doing moving forward. And my references. Thank you.
Great timing. That was really good. You had like 20 or 15 seconds left.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
All right. So a few things I wanted to mention about the presentations. Okay. I'm not sharing. Nobody's sharing. Okay. One very common and theme is you want to make sure that you don't have much wording. So too much wording, what it does is it lead. Now I cheat when I'm teaching because I also post the slides for use as some guidance to guide you through the material. But when you're giving a presentation, we try to avoid a lot of wording. And the reason we do that is, in general, all these presentations are going to be in person. And if they're virtual, I'm not going to listen to you. What happens is you start reading it. We as humans have a tendency to go to the reading of it before we even listen to what you're saying. And the whole point is the words on there are to guide you. And so you can get away without doing complete sentences. The standard is usually 3 bullet points, no more per slide. Again, I cheat on when I'm teaching, but it's a different perspective. One other thing is very important is you want to make sure your font's big. And so it's hard to do when you're on your laptop or your home computer to see, is this big? This is too big. So you should be working at a font of like 24. And obviously if it's too big, like I can decrease a little bit. And the whole point is it kind of forces you not to have too much per slide. And then finally, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And that's very cliche, but it's true. It is very true. That sometimes we can use pictures, and somebody I'm pointing out, so I apologize since you're our last one. But for example, when you're talking about in your background, like you did a great job of just using that picture. So we see like these particle size. I have no clue what the size is, but I know for sure it's smaller than a red blood cell, but just about the size of bacteria. And I'm like, okay, it's dang small, and I don't want that in my lungs. And I think that if I can walk away with something like that, I will still remember the picture. I won't remember the words. So, and sometimes it's very hard to find good pictures. And this is, to be honest, I'm giving you advice on something I'm not very good at. I'm terrible about finding pictures for stuff or creating my own. So questions on the presentations?
I do have a quick question. When you're saying minimizing the words, but how do we present our data how do we present the actual data that we have without using just putting it on the screen?
Yeah, so the data you can do with a table, but minimize the table, right? So a smaller table. And with the bar graphs, you don't have to have words around the bar graph at all, just what the graph is.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, and then when you're presenting like statistical analysis, which you all were doing today, there you can just say, this is the test I did. Here was my null and alternative hypothesis, and here's my z value and my p value, and then use your words to describe what's happening. And even if they're not completely correct, most people won't know that they're not completely correct. I do. I'm the professor, but you're not going to be talking to most people in public. People with that know statistics. Okay, but yeah, Yana, you asked a great question. Other questions?
Was my data right? You said you're going to know, but
I can't tell until I sit down. I have to like calculation and stuff like that. I mean, I have notes for everybody. on these 3-minute presentations, that I'll give more extensive feedback that this time than last time. Last time it was more about the report, and I was actually going to be grading more of the 7-minute more, but I at least want to give you some good stuff to work on.
If
Chelsea.
if our data is incorrect, do we have a chance to fix it?
Yeah, and I'll let you know if it's incorrect. And
Okay.
obviously, project 3, you're going to expand on what you
Uh-huh.
did here to include one more analysis.
Okay. And when will that be available?
It was going to be put up yesterday.
Okay.
Things happen, but it will be up tomorrow.
Okay.
But it's very similar. It says then this piece.
Okay. Thank you.
And we will still be doing these 3-minute presentations, but they will be on our finals day. Okay. Other questions?
So do you need us to add more data? Project 3 is adding more data?
No, and more analysis.
Add more analysis. Okay.
So right now, what you've done is confidence intervals and hypothesis testing. You have homework that's due on power analysis, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So and I think a lot of you enjoyed that section much more than hypothesis testing. It might not be true for everybody. So that would be an example of one. Linear regression would be another, and we'll be talking about that this week and the last week of class. Okay. Yeah.
When is the finals week? Isn't it when we come back from break?
No, we have a whole week of class when we come back from break. And then the week after is finals week.
I was told that the semester ends on the 6th.
Whoever told you lied to you or was misinformed.
It was Dr. Han. She told me that.
Dr. Han is wrong. That's when classes end. Finals week, I am actually obligated by the state of Illinois for us to have some culminating experience during finals week.
Is that the 9th through the 13th there?
That is correct. And I'm actually out of town. I'll be at Brown doing research. But I'm still having office hours. I'll have extensive office hours. Even though they'll be virtual, but I'm at Brown.
Okay.
So when we're meeting, and if you look at our syllabi, I'll go there now. Yeah, this is good that we're clarifying this. We want to make sure everybody's on the same page, right? So it's December 12th.
Okay.
Okay, and it's from 8 to 9:50 p.m. So it's even different timing. Obviously, if everybody does the 3 minutes, right, and there will be a little hiccup to the 3 minutes, you will all see. Okay, I'll tell you what it is, because I can't help myself. I'm going to expect every person to at least ask one question to one project. A well thought out question about the data or what the analysis they did. So not about the background. That's tricky, isn't it? But you've been seeing these and you've talked about them. So it won't be really 3 minutes. It'll be about 5 minutes per presentation. Okay. By the way, just so you know, 8 to 9:50 on the East Coast is 9 to 10:50. So I'm gonna be exhausted, but you all are too. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, please, Ivory, jump in.
Will we be penalized if our presentation go over 7 minutes, the one that we submitted to you?
If it's like 7:30, there's wiggle room. But if you're like getting up into the 10, 15 minutes, okay, well, then yes. Yeah. So yes, but again, it's not like, oh my God, it's 7:01.
So the wiggle room is like maybe 2 minutes.
I have to see.
Or less.
I have to see if it's like at the end and you spent a minute. a minute talking about conclusions and future work, I'm not going to penalize you. It's just you probably got lost in talking about that.
Okay.
I have a question for the class. I know that someone had mentioned about how their computer was going to explode. I think it was Alexis. What resources is everyone using for when they do the voice recording? Because I do PowerPoint and the file takes so long to upload onto D2L.
I usually just use my iPhone and I like prop it up against something and record my computer screen. But it
actually worked out well, Alex. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay. That's good. Okay.
It takes a little bit to upload, but it gets done.
Does everybody else use PowerPoint?
No, they don't. Please chime in.
Yeah, I've had success using PowerPoint and recording on each specific slide. But that, I mean,
Does that take some time still to download and then to upload onto D2L?
I don't remember it being particularly long.
Okay.
Some of you use different software. Please share. Anant, can you apply?
Gotcha. Thank
That is probably the one of the better ones. Like, that's a good one. I hadn't thought about that in years.
Thanks, Anand.
You apply. Can you give a link in the chat? People to use. Other questions? Chelsea asked about assignment 4. It's been up for a little bit, but it's under the assignment, just like the last 3. You should see it. No, if it's
Chelsea, it's in the description. So when you open up assignments, you will just click on that description, and then what he wrote for you to do there is there. You got to copy paste it. So it's up.
Oh my stars! I was looking for an attachment and completely
No,
overlooked.
and then the reason I don't do an attachment is because I try to avoid you having to download stuff to your computer all the time. And a lot of my students, my undergrads, use tablets, and the rates on those fill up so quick with downloads. Maricela said she used ScreenPal, and actually ScreenPal I think is what a lot of my previous class used. And so
Thank you, Zahara, and thank you.
Yana, you brought up a good point, and next time I teach this course, I have a note to make sure that provide links to ways to do recording. So I appreciate that. I hadn't thought about that in the past, and nobody's recommended it, so I'm surprised.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
Other questions as we're transitioning? No, Heba. There will be an assignment 5, but again, it'll be a very short one, and you have a discussion. So it sounds like a lot, but it's not as much as you think. The assignment 5 will have the smallest amount of questions by far, and the discussion is really just you reflecting on. I even have it here. I'll share my screen.
Okay.
And so the last discussion is you just reflecting on these presentations and what you've learned from them. And I'm a nerd. I really believe on reflection. One other last thing, if we have 16 students, 15 students, if we get 12 out of the 15, if it's 15, or 13 out of 16, aka if we're off by 3, fill out the evaluation for the course. I'll give 10 extra credit points just in general. But it's percentage based, right? So you either do it or you don't. Now, in terms of course evaluations, the way I look at them, one is my department doesn't care because it's in public health and not in math. I care because actually all the changes I've made to the course, like that I, provide the slides, be more flexible with the computing software we use, has all been recommendations based on those evaluations and discussion with students. So really see that as a way to say, this went well, this went poorly, constructive criticism so that we can make the course better for future students. And you can help me improve as a professor. That's how I take them. I'm not joking. Before I teach a course, I look at the old evaluation I had from the previous time I taught it, plus my notes, and I say, okay, this is the things I need to change. I don't know what other faculty do. And again, as a grad course, I'm tenured. It's even worse. It doesn't really matter, but it matters to me. So, if it's all negative, that's fine. You can write and do whatever you want. I do not see them until after grades are submitted. But I do think you should be doing this for all of your courses. It does take a little bit of time, but a lot of times you don't have the ability to give anonymous feedback to the professors. And many of the faculty at NEIU are like me that are looking to improve the way we teach. Okay? Now, I'm going to give a warning. You are welcome to say whatever you want, but if you say that he killed us because he got sick and was MIA, that's fine. But it's not constructive. But again, you are welcome to say whatever you want. And I've had students like comment on how I look and stuff like that. I find that unprofessional. But again, they're welcome to say it. There's no repercussion.
That's terrible.
That is awful.
It's you always remember some of the worst scenarios. Questions on the evaluations, course evaluations? You have to finish them before finals week.
I just have one feedback. Uploading the homework was the worst experience. I almost dropped. I literally almost dropped.
Yeah, so it's funny you say this. This is the first time, and this was true in my ODE class, and that one's in person, but it went remote because I've been sick. That students have been having a difficulty like scanning and uploading. So so one of the things is there used to be a free software, but it's not around anymore for students to scan homework and just load it. So that to be honest, that's what I do with my phone. I scan it, just take a picture and scan. But I think what I'll do is implement that next time. Let me write that down. Again, assumptions, right? Assumptions kill us. Thank you. All right, other thoughts? Some in the chat. I really can't see chat, so please interrupt.
Question for you, Dr. Heaton. Can I talk to you after class?
Yeah, I have a few minutes. I have to run to Home Depot too, because I don't know about you all, but I have icy sidewalks. But we can talk for a few minutes. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make it short. And my reception where I am is pretty horrible as well. But did you say the break week you will be available, or you will not be available at
during
all?
finals week, yeah. No. I'm available, but it'll be virtual still. But I will be on campus next week and the following week, and then during finals week, you can reach out to me and email me to schedule an appointment. I literally am in a research team of 6 at Brown, and we're like in an isolated room to do research, but I have flexibility to leave and to have conversations. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Communication. What's the worst I say? I can't talk right now, but let's find a time in this block. Okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, so today what we're going to be doing is looking at multivariable methods. And what this is everything we've been doing so far is like X and Y, and are comparing two proportions or comparing two means. But what we want to understand is there are multiple risk factors that are leading to an event. So for example, we know that one of the leading causes of lung cancer is smoking. The question is, so what that's saying is smoking leads to lung cancer. Okay, but is there something that's leading to smoking? Or is there something in between that, for example, everybody has evidence of somebody that's 100 years old that's been smoking 2 packs a day since they were 16, right? By the way, if you don't get any of these references of 2 packs a day, it's a good thing. Well, maybe there's something in the middle between the smoking and the lung cancer. Is it something genetic? We call these like different risk factors besides just the smoking. There has to be something else. Typically, what we work with is multivariate methods are complex, and it's a huge area of statistics. This is actually where we diverge from what we would do in a normal stats course for bio students. This is where we get to do multivariable methods. And we will do a little bit of linear analysis, but nonlinear analysis we don't cover much. We even teach 2 courses at NEIU in the math department that cover multivariable methods. One of them is called multivariable statistical methods. So our goal here is to focus on confounding variables. So like is it distorting the effect, right? Is certain other life decisions distorting the effect that I smoked for, till the age of 100 and I didn't get lung cancer? Or something else going on. And then effect modification. So different relationships between the exposure or risk factor. It will depend on another characteristic of variable. So effect modification basically is we're moving along from smoking to cancer and we change something. How will that affect what's going on? So what is confounding and effect modification? Kind of a little bit more in details. This is the relationship between risk factor and an outcome that is being modified by another variable. Like we said, it could be exercise. And this third variable is called the confounding variable. So we say smoking leads to cancer, but if you have something in the between, let's say exercise, well, maybe something's going on there. This is what happens though. So notice that we're doing this at the end of the course, right? You would be like, we should be really understanding this at the beginning. What is a confounding variable, right? But the problem is you have to know your data well, like really, really well. You have to know what you're studying. So for example, one of the reasons, we have these background sections in your projects is understand what the project is. What is preeclampsia? I forget who did that, but not many people know what preeclampsia is. They either heard it on TV, on a medical drama, or they've had it, or they've known somebody that's had it, or they've had children and they've had education about it. So we have to know the data that's coming in. We have to know the problem really well. Okay. And this is where the complexity gets in. Okay, let's think about confounding for a second. This can be assessed in multiple ways. It can be done through a statistical test or clinical or practical judgment. So we say that exercise leads to lower blood pressure. But the impact of exercise really can be affected by my starting weight. Somebody that is has a, well, I hate BMI, but is more overweight, and they start doing exercise, they're going to see a drop in their blood pressure quicker. It might not be taking them out of high blood pressure zone, but at least they're going to see that some of that effect. But if I already have really good blood pressure, and then I start exercise, maybe it's because of my weight was already in a certain range of weight that was deemed healthy by my primary care doctor. So
if,
yeah, go ahead.
So would confounding also be other reasons they have high blood pressure? I think I'm.
Yeah, it can be. That's a good point. Yeah, so when we think of the confounding, we think what happens is you start a study and you're like, if you exercise, you will decrease blood pressure. I don't know how many of you heard this before. And then you start to see this study with a bunch of individuals. You're like, yeah. You're like, maybe it's because all the people that we had participating were already overweight. If I'm already at a healthy weight and a healthy blood pressure, if I start an exercise, maybe I don't see a change in my blood pressure. Remember that you're saying exercise changes blood pressure. So independent is what you're measuring. We're measuring how much exercise you do. Okay. So you can change your exercise. Then we're saying that affects blood pressure. But something else affects blood pressure. And one of the leading things we know is our weight and our stress level. Does that help, Lachey?
Yeah, sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
Because if you start there and you run data and no one loses weight, then I guess I'm asking is confounding is like going back to the drawing board. Like no one lost weight, so then there's something else.
But we're not even measuring weight. We don't care. All we care is you're going to do 30 minutes of exercise a day for 10 weeks, and we're going to test your blood pressure before and after.
Yeah, blood pressure. I meant blood pressure, not weight.
Yeah. If nothing changes, okay. But if we see that, well, I started losing weight, and then my blood pressure is changing. I said yes. So what you said is correct. Somebody said something in the chat. Yeah, well, Yana said, which is a good point, is to address confounding, everyone has the same weight. Typically, we want them to be about the same weight. And I think Chiara had in her presentation, she was talking about two states that had similar populations. If you compare, Montana to New York City, obviously New York or California, obviously they're going to have a higher number because they have a higher number of people. So that is another confounding variable sometimes. So I want to reiterate, you are only measuring exercise and seeing the effect on blood pressure. And we realize, oh, yay, change. But then we realize maybe starting weight was a confounding variable. Okay. Cool. I also I will post 2 YouTube videos that talk about this a little bit too, because I find that people are confused by what does confounding mean. Okay. Other questions? Thanks, Lachey. Those are good questions. That was a good question. All right. This is where we need volunteers. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing problems. I could have swore I changed this to plural. Problem 1 through 4 on page 219. And what we're going to do is we're going to do these problems together. Okay?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yes, I like it.
Great. Do you need someone to read them first?
Let's start with one person.
Okay.
Are you volunteering, Chelsea?
No.
No, I like. No, just curious. Yes, we do. We'll start with problem 1.
I can read it. I have it.
Before you read, Chelsea, by the way, I just want to say I have a note here. We're going to do these 4 problems together. This is just one example. Please go through the first 3 examples in chapter 9. They follow the exact same procedure we're doing here. And we're going to do this nice and slow. And we get where we get for the rest of the day, okay? And I'm also pulling on my tablet so I can write for you, because I think a lot of people are enjoying that more than just going through the slides.
Okay. A study is conducted to estimate. There's the huge feedback. Is that a study is conducted to estimate the association between exposure to lead paint.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself.
The study estimates the association between exposure to lead paint in childhood and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Data on N equals 400 children are collected, and data on exposure and ADH diagnosis are shown in table 9.26. Do you want me to describe what the table says? Okay. I have to turn the page, apologies. Estimate the crude or unadjusted relative risk, and estimate the crude or unadjusted odds ratio.
All right, so what I'm going to do is, even though I have the solution here, we'll do it on the tablet too to kind of see what's going on. And one of these days I'll be like so much more quicker and efficient. Okay, so what we have is we have this nice little table here. And we have exposure. Yes, no. And the problem is it doesn't give us all the information we really need here. It does, but so what they want to know is we're looking at between lead. And at any point, please interrupt me. And ADHD. So we're looking for, is there an association? Are they associated to one another? So the first thing they asked us for was the relative risk. Recall that the relative risk is P1 over P2. All right. So we need to get the percentage of those that are that have been exposed to lead, right? And this is relative risk of exposure, right? Chelsea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that means, well, our population 1 is 34 out of how many?
400.
How much?
400?
Yeah, it looks like it'd be 400, right? But it's for those that are yes.
71.
close.
105.
How'd you get to 105?
I added 34 and 71.
Yeah, so
Why?
P1 is exposure
Right.
with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 34 divided by 105. Because we have 105 total participants that were exposed to lead paint. How about P2? Let's do it in purple.
Is P2 people that wasn't exposed to it?
Yep. Because remember, you're looking for relative risk of exposure. So we're comparing yes and no. Yes. So yes.
Yeah.
But remember, we want these with people with ADHD, correct?
Yeah. So it would be 29 over 295.
Very good.
What do you do? Because this came up with my data in my presentation for unreported. Do you just create new totals?
No, it's still part of it, unfortunately.
Okay,
Well,
I'll
you
talk
can
to
do
you
both,
about
but if you get rid of it in your data, you have to say we got rid of unreported data.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. You guys are seeing my ceiling. You don't want to see that. Okay. So 29 over 295. And again, I did these calculations. We get approximately 3.29.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what does that mean for relative risk of exposure? Yeah, this is where we struggle a little bit, right? So this is what this is saying is we can think about this as population 1 equals 3.29 times population 2. So if I have 100 people in population 2, then I'm going to have 329 people in population 1.
Mm-hmm. So because it's larger than 1, it's significant? Or there's a strong association?
There's a strong association, yes. And the way I avoid those words until I get some statistical testing, but a good approach is to say the relative risk of exposure for those with ADHD. Notice it should be exposure to lead.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 3.29 higher. And that's huge. Already there, that number should scare you.
Yeah.
Part B, what'd they ask us for?
Estimate the crude or unadjusted odds ratio.
Yeah, crude or unadjusted. Unadjusted. Odds ratio. So the way we do that is we do something really kind of slick, is we say it's A divided by B over C divided by D. And I'll write up here that this is A. Hold on. I always forget which one's which. See, I have to look it up too. Because I know in math we do things a little bit differently. Yeah. So what we're looking at here is the ratio of those exposed. So we're looking at the ratio with ADHD versus not ADHD. So we have 34 over 71 and 29 over 266. That's 4.39. Okay. And again, you do have to have a sentence describing this. And that one.
Question, Dr. Hibben.
Of course, Benita, every time. Yes.
Is this being recorded or is it possible to record?
I never record.
Sure. Okay.
And part of it is because there's student faces on here. And not once when I've taught this course, as the whole class has to give me permission to record. And some people have you have an ability to keep your information anonymous. You have to fill out a form, and some people might have that in the class. That's the problem. And therefore, I can't record. Okay?
Okay.
I know their faculty can, and what it either they got permission or they don't have any holds in any of the students on the course that says anonymous information. I forget the name of it. There's like an actual form. So, okay.
Okay.
And that's like really important. Why take notes? You know, you have the slides. Now we have these doing the problems, and then one of the things is a couple of people have come to office hours and says, okay, can we go over this slide together? A little bit slower. Like, sure. Okay. Sorry, Benita. So here we have the sentence describing the results. Again, I'm going to lead that to the reader, aka you all. Somebody want to read problem 2?
I can read problem 2.
Yay.
In the study described in problem 1, data are also available reflecting whether or not the child's father had ADHD. The relationship between the father's diagnosis, the child's exposure to lead paint, and the child's diagnosis are shown in table 9-27. Did I read A?
Let's stop and think about that for a second. So what are we looking at? What are we trying to solve?
Like the relationship between the child's ADHD and the father's ADHD diagnosis.
Whether it's hereditary.
By the way, does anybody know?
It seems like it would be. The truthiness in my gut says it's yes, it's genetic.
Anybody know? Yeah, it doesn't hurt to go with truthiness, but I was just curious if anyone knows.
Google says it does tend to run in families.
Yeah, tends to, but maybe it's an environmental issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we don't know. I will tell you.
Or it might be something like with schizophrenia and a lot of mental health issues where it can be triggered by the environment, like the potential for it is there, but it depends on resilience factors. Anyway.
But why would it just be the father's diagnosis? Like, why not the mom?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I think what it is there's been some new studies since this problem that shows it might be both. But a lot of theory before was thought it was on a certain chromosome, which the men provide.
Oh, the Y chromosome?
Because remember, an incidence of ADHD in boys up until the last 5 or 6 years was like very high relative to girls. And we realize it's because ADHD presents differently between genders. Which is kind of cool, right? I mean, it's like heart attacks. Everybody sees a heart attack from like movies and TV of clutching the chest, but that's actually not what it is for women.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's a good. I love it. All right. So flawed data, yes. So what's happened here is what we've done is we've taken the data that we have for our 400 participants, and we've done this thing called stratification of the data. But more importantly, what we're looking for is we just so what's part A say, Yara?
It says estimate the relative risk and odds ratio for a child's diagnosis of ADHD relative to exposure to lead paint, stratified by the father's diagnosis of ADHD, i.e., for fathers with and without diagnosis.
Yeah. So what we have so far is what we're going to do is we're going to take the father with ADHD and we're going to look at the relative risk and the odds ratio. And then we're going to do the same without. So the relative risk here for fathers with ADHD is 27 out of 66 over 7 out of 44. And the question is, where did we get that data? I'm asking you all.
It's inside the chart.
Yeah, it's just in the chart. We're just using our nice little chart here.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 2.57. Odds ratio is 27. Oh. How did I do? Okay, so I cheated and I like did a simplification of the numbers. Now I'm trying to remember. See, even I do weird things. Let's see.
Isn't it 27 divided by 39 divided by 7 divided by 37?
Yeah, what happened was I was flipping my numbers because I don't like divisions and divisions, to be honest with you. But yes, very good. I just wanted the table up. Okay. And here we get, well, why don't you all help me? What do you get for without ADHD?
7 divided by 39.
Very good. And what's in the denominator?
Hey. Right.
What?
22 divided by 251.
Ew. Okay, quick math. Do it in your head. No, it's the problem. 205. Okay. Odds ratio. What do we get? Somebody new. Don't make me call on you. I probably won't do it. Okay.
7
anyway.
divided by 30. Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
7 divided by 32 divided by 22 divided by 229.
Which is approximately 2.28. Now, what we want to do is we can say that the comparison between these calculations here so if we compare not camp the comparison between problem 1 and problem 2 are showing that the father's diagnosis might be a confounding variable. And I use the word might. Keyword here. Why am I saying might?
Is it because there could be other factors other than the father?
Yeah, yeah, that is one. But remember, we're saying that lead exposure leads to higher incidence of ADHD. So the confounding variable that we're kind of trying to measure is that the father, if the father has ADHD, then the child's more likely to have ADHD. And that's kind of what we've shown here. Okay. But the word might is like we're being cautious because we haven't statistically shown. To do that, we have to do some type of hypothesis testing. So let's go to problem 3.
I have a question about that. Are you also saying might because I guess the biology part of it, it may be genetic or it may not be genetic, but we don't actually know, or maybe environmental?
Yeah, and it could be that somebody with ADHD makes less money and is more likely to be in housing with lead paint and not provided with the information resources to be aware of it. So there's a lot of different confounding variables, but we're just trying to see if this one is, right? Is the father's diagnosis a confounding variable? It's irregardless of anything else.
Okay, it was easy for us to determine something like weight can be a confounding variable between blood pressure and exercise. It was easy for us to determine that it actually is.
Yeah, that one's easy. That's why I started. That's why it's a start. But this is like this is a real world problem. And okay. So somebody read problem 3 for us, please.
Okay, I will. You will also hear my children.
No, good.
Use the data in problem 1 and problem 2 to conduct tests of hypothesis to determine whether the father's diagnosis of ADHD is a confounder. Hint, test if there's a relationship between the father's diagnosis and the child's exposure and between the father's diagnosis and the child's diagnosis. Is the father's diagnosis of ADHD a confounder? Justify your conclusion.
All right. So we have a lot of work here, and we're going to do it. So the question really is, we have 2 parts, okay? We need to do 2 tests. One, what they ran their hint, relationship between father and child exposure. Diagnosis, sorry. Somebody, hold on. Again, I can't see chat, so please, actually.
And the second one is between the father diagnosis and the child diagnosis.
Yes. Father diagnosis. I'll just do it this way. Somebody said they can't see the work. Can you guys see it?
I can.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you just got a slow connection.
Yeah. So almost everybody, but you, Uzman and Marisol, can't. I don't know. That's on it's on your guys' end, so I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't solve. So we're gonna have to do two hypothesis testing, and we're gonna do them. I'm gonna do them. I'm gonna do it by hand, kind of. Okay. So we'll call this star. We're gonna do star first. Okay. And we're gonna do it in steps, like I mentioned in the homework. So first we want to say the father diagnosis and child diagnosis are independent. Basically, remember this is categorical. We've yeah, that's good advice, Samaya, the try leaving and coming back in. But it's categorical, right? Because we've put the number of children and the fathers in two different categories. And the alternative is that H naught is false. That they are independent. Let's put my book away. Did they give us an alpha?
I didn't see one, but didn't you say it's always 0.05?
They don't give it. Use that. Okay. Step 2. Well, remember this is categorical data. So categorical data means chi-squared. And this is you're like, we didn't do this practice with these. Well, that's why we're doing it now. Because I knew we were going to get to categorical here. Step 3. Well, we have to find our decision, right? Well, if we look at the table in the back of the book, and I'll give you a page for it, we noticed first that the degrees of freedom is rows 1 minus times column minus rows minus 1 times columns minus 1. Well, we have 2 rows and 2 columns. That equals 1. Ivory, did I forget something? Oh, okay. You had something in the chat. So what if we look again? I'll give the table, but I think some of you. Table 3, page 341. And I go degree freedom of 1, and I want 0.05. So we reject the null if, and recall that chi-squared's going to be bigger than 3.84. Okay? They even give an example in the book. Questions so far?
No.
No, go ahead, please ask. One person said no, but somebody was going to say something. Okay. Step 4. Calculate chi-squared. Well, so I need an observed and expected table. And to be honest, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it by hand. It'll waste the next 30 minutes of class of me doing these calculations. Well, not that long. And we want to get through this problem, so we're going to do this with R. Once I can get R up. Now, let me know what you see, please.
Your iPad.
Damn. I was hoping it'd work. Okay. Now let me know what you see.
The Zoom with everybody name.
It's not working. Okay, I got it. I gotcha. I just didn't like to share multiple things.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Now you see R?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is literally I'm taking, and this is what I recommend, is like take what I did in class and try to copy and paste the code that's in red to just see what happens. So what I've done is we're making a matrix of the ADHD based on that table I just had, or that we have, where we have 66 fathers with ADHD that have lead exposure, where the children have lead exposure, 44 with no lead exposure. So the 66 and 44 are separated. And then 39 fathers, no ADHD and no lead exposure. And 251, no ADHD and no lead exposure. So what does this look like? We'll hit enter, ADHD. Okay. And that's that table. Now, all I'm going to do is chi dot archive square. You guys' faces on the way. And look at, just click on test and ADHD. And you can do this in Excel too. It's very straightforward in Excel. And it says, here it is. They give you the chi-squared, the DF, and they give you the p-value. So is it statistically significant?
No,
Why not?
because the p-value, because the p-value is less than the level of significance.
And what was the level that we have? What was it?
0.05.
And what number do we have here?
So that's less than, so it is significant.
That number is 0.00000. 15 zeros, 22. Yeah. But we don't actually need, I mean, we need the p-value because we're going to reject the null hypothesis. But if we go back to our criteria that we have set about what the chi-squared needed, and that's why it's really important that I do a lot of this by hand just to help me out, is we said the chi-squared, we reject the null if the chi-squared is above 3.84. And we get a chi-squared of 86.883. And I'm going to tell you something. I did this 3 times messing with my matrix because I was like, that's way too big. But that's what the numbers are. All right.
Dr. Haven, quick question on the data. So where did you have the data stored? Did you have it stored in Excel?
No.
Is that where you pulled it from? Okay.
No, I literally say I create it right here.
Oh, okay. Okay, okay, okay.
That ADHD equals this matrix. It's literally just putting in the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And if you want to learn how to import data from Excel, that's something we can do together.
Okay.
It's kind of fun. Okay, so let's go back to my tablet. We calculated this. We got a chi-square to be 86.883. So, step 5. We reject the null hypothesis with, and I'm going to put it in the p-value here. But you always have to be, that is less than 0.001. If I mean, you can put in what the real p-value is, but it's just small. I mean, it's basically 0. Therefore, we have significant evidence that
Lay down. He did that to me all day yesterday. Elijah's gonna get pink eye. Don't do that. Turn the lights on.
Yana, you're
Sorry
fine.
about that.
No, it's okay. We have families. We have lives. The we just went through peak eye. Father's diagnosis
Oh, you heard that. Sorry, guys.
and the child exposure to lead is not independent. And that's key, right? They're not independent of each other. So there's some relationship between the father diagnosis of ADHD and the child being exposed to lead. And that would be a cool study to look at. Right here, we could stop it like, let's study this. Let's go on a tangent. Let's go down the rabbit hole. Okay. But that's not the question we wanted. All right. You're in blue. So now we need to look at father's diagnosis and child's diagnosis. So here we were looking at lead, right? So let's do blue. So again, step 1. The null. The father's diagnosis and child diagnosis are independent. H1. H naught is false. And this is, and again, we'll use an alpha of 0.05. And it's funny because, again, we're following the same thing for like that we did before. And I'm just repeating it, but going a little bit quicker. Step 2. Well, it's categorical data, so it's chi-squared. Okay. Step 3. And you say you think this is tedious and stuff like this. In some sense, it is. But to be honest, writing it down and going through the process, you're more likely to remember what's happening. And then you'll find out that where did I make my mistakes? So we will reject the null if the chi-squared is greater than or equal to 3.84. Step 4, calculate chi-squared. Again, anybody want to do that by hand? Anybody want to do it by hand? You all said yes. All right. No, I'm not doing it by hand. I'm taking a picture because not one of you are sharing your screens. So which I never are on. And I asked a question and I got crickets. So this is my cricket screen snapshot. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can. I'm desperately trying to follow.
Yes.
Okay. You don't want to be calculating
You
chi-square by hand, do you?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to give you the values. We're going to get that the chi-squared here is equal to 26.7 or 2755. Okay. We have this 5 and 6. So we notice that this number is bigger than that 3 that we have. So again, we reject the null hypothesis. With, I know you're all tired, and I didn't take a second break, but I want to get through this. P-value, oops, let's do this. Come on. Okay. Okay. Again, I'm gonna do this one in student pink. Pink stands out, and I like pink. Therefore, we have significant evidence that the fathers diagnosis and the child's diagnosis is not independent. Okay. Notice I'm not saying that they're dependent. Okay. So we have to summarize everything. So we got both of them statistically significant. Yeah, Chelsea, you had a question?
No.
And to do that, I'm gonna stop share. Again, I can't see the chat, so you guys gotta speak up because I'm never seeing the chat. So please say something because I can't see it when I'm sharing my screen. Sorry. Are by the way, I can see your images. So you guys don't play enough with stuff. You can always say, play with icons like this. So just letting you know. So this is go ahead, Chelsea.
No, I'm just laughing. I see people responding to you.
Yeah, play with the icons because I see your images, but chat is not fun. I'm not a streamer. I can't do multiple things. So since both tests show that the father's diagnosis of ADHD is not independent, we can assume that the father's diagnosis is a confounding factor for diagnosis of the child and lead paint exposure comparison. So remember, what we wanted to do is we had a test: is the father statistically diagnosis statistically significant to lead exposure and to the child's exposure. So it's two pieces. So we have to show that it's statistically significant in two pieces. If only one showed, we would say we didn't have enough evidence to show that it was a confounding variable. If neither of them showed, we'd say we don't have evidence at all. So enough versus none. Questions on this?
No questions.
Thank you, Yana. I just need people to say something.
I
I'm
have a
talking
quick
to the
question.
whiteboard. Yes, please.
So the 3.84 value that we were using, is that coming from the table?
Yes, it is.
So we use the degrees of freedom to figure that out, correct?
Yeah, and the degrees of freedom here, because it's a 2 by 2 table, is just 1. So it's
Oh.
it's the very first line.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thanks.
Yeah. And it's on page 341. It's table 3.
Got it. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think my question is that, okay, since we rejected the null hypothesis for both times, that's what determines if it's a confounding factor, right? It have to be rejected in both cases.
Yeah, it depends because we did chi-squared. Well, chi-squared says we're looking, are they independent of each other? Right? So the null says, are they independent? Okay. So I'm reluctant to say what you're yes to what you're saying. Was it Ivory that asked that?
Yeah.
Sorry. And the reason is because there are rare cases where that's not true.
Okay.
Again, it's like, can you divide by 0? No, well, that's not really true mathematically. Your teacher told you never to do that, but okay. All right. So I want to do a little bit of introduction to linear regression, and then we'll talk about it more after Thanksgiving. So linear regression is one variable. And what we're doing here is so what we want to say is, like, we plot a bunch of points for height and weight. Go back to the very first example we did in class. Plot a bunch of these points for height and weight. And our question is it linear or not? Right? So you can imagine this graph over here. X is height, Y is weight. And we're going to say, is this linear? Right? Can I draw a line that fits through this data? And how linear is that data? How straight is it? So that when X increases, Y increases. Okay. And the question is, this is known as the correlation coefficient. Has anybody seen this in any of their papers? A linear regression?
I was going to meet with you to talk about this for my project.
Okay, yeah, we can meet. So we can do it in R and by hand. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I have the way for us to do it by hand, and I'm going to give you a little bit. I'm not going to do a problem by hand ever. Ever. I've never done a problem by hand. Everything else we've done so far in class, I've done by hand at least once. Sometimes I always do it. I've never calculated the correlation coefficient by hand. But one of the questions is, okay, you get this straight line, you get this correlation. How much does the data correlate to the line? How close is it to the line? And we want to infer something from it, right? Our goal in statistics is always infer information. Is something statistically significant or not? And one of the questions is, can we get a confidence interval for how much does that data fit to this line? Well, the answer is yes. And finally, we want to get a line that best fits the data, because I can get a straight line in any way. I was going to play with something and like mess with our design here. But so the confounding variable is one that affects both independent and dependent variables, right? We said we're measuring the effect of exercise on blood pressure. Okay. So exercise was the independent variable. That's the one you're changing, how much exercise you do. You cannot change your blood pressure. The confounding variable affects both exercise. So the amount of if I'm a big guy, and if I'm even bigger, my ability to do exercise is very difficult. You go over and tell somebody that's 600 pounds to do 30 minutes of walking a day, they can't. And that's it. It just there might be exceptions, but to be honest, they can't. So that affects that. And it also, that excessive weight also affects their high blood pressure. So the question is, what are the independent and dependent variables? So we're kind of harping back to algebra. For some of us, that was very long ago. I won't age myself. I think my gray and my beard does. But we can write an equation, y equals mx plus b. Does everybody remember that?
Yes.
Yes.
With fond memories, right? It's fond memories. That's not rhetorical. I want to hear yes.
I love math, so yes.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, I have fond memories of it. So recall that m is the slope, how it's increasing over how it's increasing, and y b is the y-intercept. So where does it intercept that y? Y is the dependent variable and x is the independent. So x would in the scenario we've been working with, x is exercise and y is blood pressure. In public health, they don't call it the dependent variable, they call it the response variable. In biology, they usually call it the outcome. In psychology, it's usually outcome too. In the independent variable, the x, in public health, it's predictors. And then I think that's also it's predictor in psychology and explanatory variable in biology sometimes, not always. I want to note something. People take linear regressions and lines like this and they say, I can predict the future. They cannot. You cannot do what we're doing here and say what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years. And somebody tries to do that, they're lying. You try to do that, you're deceiving. Because now I told you you can't do it. So what we're going to do is next time, because all of you seem like you're exhausted and not engaged. I know you're listening, but you're really tired, I can tell. And it's a lot of energy giving those presentations. We're going to start with this data. And they're totally made up numbers. I took the average weight and average height well, I didn't make them up. I actually pulled them. But for children in Illinois, I think it was from. But it doesn't matter. And we're going to see is as the weight increases, does height increase, or vice versa. As height increases, does weight increase? Okay. So we're gonna do it in R. We're gonna plot it, and have a little bit of fun with it. Okay. So this is where we're gonna start next time. Questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Oh, no questions.
No questions.
Awesome. I appreciate that more than you know.
No questions yet.
You're always gonna have questions. No. I like the word yet. That's good. All right. What do you need? What do you need to get in?
I
Oh,
guess sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I'm sorry about the background noise. I guess as the semester comes down to a close, because I know we actually will have another presentation, how would this information be reported? So now we're actually at chi-square. Are you expecting us? Oh, man, sorry. I'm gonna have to change. So much background noise.
You're fine.
Are you gonna be expecting us to throw in some confounding variables and then use
I'm
that
gonna
information?
post. Some of you might be able to do it very quickly. Some of you might not. But I'm literally, like I said, I have to go get salt. Um, um, but I'm gonna
Okay.
post tomorrow. Project 3 expectations. And the reason I waited until now was part of it is to avoid overloading everybody because you see all these notifications of what happens. So, okay.
Okay.
If I get a burn in my bonnet, I'll probably do it tonight.
Okay.
You probably all don't know what that means.
When is Project 3 due?
December 12th. Yeah. 3 weeks. Other questions?
And we're adding another section to our paper and revising it again.
Yeah, I mean, again, I gave some of you came to office hours and or were asking me about your projects and stuff like that. And we went over. I said, I literally will be taking for project 2 the feedback I gave you, the rubric and the feedback I gave you, and then I'm looking and reading what you did and seeing if you matched it. Like, did you take the feedback? Like, it's really important to learn how to take feedback. Lachey, I love that you're playing with it.
I think some things might make a little bit more sense to me once I really have like an extensive one-on-one with you. Just because it almost seemed as though the information that needed to be reported in project 2 seems very similar to project 1. So
It
I
was
guess
almost, yes.
Right. So I guess moving into project 3, I want to make sure like, okay, I know you say you post something by today or tomorrow. But I want to make sure that whatever you're looking for, we actually get a chance to
Yeah, for many of
report in.
you, I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry, just because.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's what it is some of you had to make a lot of changes to your background and add some references and modify a lot of that, but your data looked good the way you presented it. Some of you had to make changes throughout the whole document, right? Some of you decided to do a different project just because they could find better data. So it's really problem dependent. And again, the same thing, I'm going to be reading through those backgrounds and the way you're referencing, and as you transition from the background to the data and the data analysis, like I'm going to be giving a lot of feedback on these transitional pieces and how you represent your graphs and tables. And I gave feedback on the graphs and tables before, but like that's a very important piece. And then how you present the data, right? Some of you probably have a lot of equation stuff. It's not a bad thing. I'm gonna say, oh, we can get rid of that. Okay.
Okay.
So you're getting more feedback to improve what you've done, and then you have another section or two where you're like, oh, I need to add, I need to do this now. So the whole burden of these is not for you to be writing 3 giant papers and scrounging up data. Some of you want to do that, but I could have done that, but I don't think that's the point. Yeah, let's say.
I didn't know I had a question. I didn't.
You unmuted.
Oh, okay. Um, so I got a question about like data analysts really quick, just from project 2 before I turn it in. I had 2 sets of data trying to understand one problem. One set of data I did a CI, the other set I did a hypothesis test. Is that okay?
It
Or
really
was
depends
I
on how
supposed
you
to do
present
both?
it. Remember, you're telling a story, aren't you?
Yes.
Ah, tell the story.
Okay.
Let's see
Because
what
it was
happens.
just so different from everyone else's. And I'm like, okay, did I do this wrong?
No, no. I mean, it depends. I mean, if you tell the story, and I'm being vague because I have to read it. I don't know. I have to see how you do it, right?
Okay.
But yeah, I trust that you're going to be very clear that the distinction of what the data represents or the results represent.
Okay. The writing part is the easy part. It's the data analyst stuff.
When is the final presentation?
The 12th of December,
What time?
8 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. It's in the syllabi. But yeah, Heba, I'm teasing you because you know I
I'm
can.
always late.
Actually, Lachey,
I
no,
know.
I know Heba asked it in
I
the
know.
chat, and I'm teasing her. Yeah, it's the 12th. It's the 12th. Finals week.
Okay. Okay. So because I'm also traveling next week, so I just making my schedule. So in the first week of December, do we have something due?
We have class, and we'll have something due.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
When I upload my assignment, when I upload my written report, I can do it directly from my Google Drive and you'll have access to it.
No, 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 no.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. You can. I highly recommend everybody do these as PDFs.
PDF, okay.
Just download it as a PDF because you don't have to worry about like transitioning it to doc or whatever. Yeah. No, there's no guarantee I'll have access to your Google Drive.
Okay.
And even if it is, we have pretty high security for faculty, and sometimes just doesn't let me. That's a really good question. Anything else? You can start logging off if you want, and I know
I
Benita
don't
wanted
have
to talk to
anything.
me. Awesome.
Thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Yana.